A very good day to you and welcome to the program. Welcome to Shalom. I want to speak to you today about a subject. It's called humility. Who was the humblest man that ever walked on the face of the earth? Come on, who was it? I tell you who it was. It was Moses. You say, Angus, impossible. Moses? Moses, that big tough man that took 1 million people at least out of Egypt, out of slavery. The Red Sea was opened. They went through. The Pharaoh's army came behind. The Lord closed the sea and drowned the whole army. He took them 40 years through the desert. I've been there. I've been to the Negev. There's nothing there, not a blade of grass. Surely he wasn't the humblest man. Well, you see, that's where you and I make a big mistake. Humility and meekness is not a sign of weakness. Meekness or humility is controlled strength. See? So a humble man is a man who can control his strength. And you'll often find that. You'll find it at school. You'll find it on the rugby field. You'll find it in the world. A big man very rarely has to lose his temper because nobody wants to fight with him, right? It's the small little guys that are the cheeky guys because they are forever having to try and prove something. Moses was the humblest man that ever walked on the earth. You say, prove it to me? Well, if you go to the book of Numbers in the Old Testament, chapter 12 and verse 3, and I'm reading out of the New King James. Now the man Moses was very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth. They asked Martin Luther once, what are the 3 greatest virtues of a man of God? He said, number 1, humility. Number 2, humility. And number 3, that's right, humility. It's a mark of a man of God. In our country at this time, in our beloved South Africa, and maybe all over the world, wherever you're watching this program, there's a tremendous lack of humility. There's a lot of arrogance. There's a lot of self-righteousness. There's a lot of judgmental type outlooks. But humility is lacking. You see, you don't judge a man because of the color of his skin. You don't judge a man because of the language he speaks or the culture that he comes from. You don't judge a man, period. All men are created by God. All men are created equally. Some of the most humble people I've ever met are uneducated people. I remember hunting elephant in Zambia many years ago. I didn't hunt myself. I went with a couple of men that were going to shoot an elephant. They went with a tracker. This guy knew the area. He lived in that area. We'd been walking for about 2 days over mountains, up and down in a heat, terrible heat, up to 40 degrees. We were dying of thirst. He came to a little spring that he had found many years before, covered up with branches and leaves. He moved them aside. He said, there's fresh water for you. We dived in there like pigs, I can honestly say. We were so thirsty. And he just stood back and he waited. And when we were finished filling ourselves, he went and got a leaf off a tree, fashioned it into a kind of a receptacle, and went and gently took the water out of the spring and poured it down his throat. And after he was finished, he covered it up again. I want to tell you, that is humility. I was so embarrassed, I've never forgotten that story as long as I live. I want to tell you the most humble person that's ever lived is God when he became flesh. Remember Jesus? When they were deciding, the disciples, on the night of his betrayal, who was going to be the greatest in the kingdom of God? Who was going to sit next to the Lord? He never said a word. He took a towel, he put it around his waist. He took a basin, he filled it with water, and he started to wash their feet. Remember, folks, it's humility God's looking for. Goodbye.
For more information, please visit angusbuchan.com.